For our daily cancellation today, we return to the viral YouTube series called Surrounded, produced by Jubilee. When we last checked in with this series, Ben Shapiro was facing down a ragtag collection of blue-haired leftists. They didn't all actually have blue hair. In fact, I think none of them did. But blue hair at this point is as much a spiritual state as a physical one. In any case, it was not a fair fight. All the blue hairs took turns embarrassing themselves, as you would expect. Now, it turns out that Pete Buttigieg, our soon former Transportation Secretary, did his own Surrounded episode a day before the election. Buttigieg was surrounded by 25 alleged undecided voters, and his task was to defend Kamala's policies against their extremely softball questions and challenges. Apparently, he didn't do a great job because Kamala went on to get totally demolished the very next day, as you probably recall. I don't think that was entirely the fault of Buttigieg's poor performance in this video. He's likely only about 80% to blame, but there's one clip that several weeks later is just now going viral. Leftists on Twitter are passing it around with glowing praise for Buttigieg. They think one answer in particular was so brilliant and so incisive and so profound that it points the way forward for the Democratic Party in the future. Somebody named Micah Irfan initially posted the clip. It got 15,000 likes, almost 4 million views. He adds this caption. He says, quote, "Send this man on every podcast for the next 4 years and we will win all 50 states." Now, somebody else agrees with a tweet that garnered 23,000 likes. They add, "Most of the Jubilee Surrounded videos are frustrating to get through for me. The Pete Buttigieg episode is their best so far. The voters are challenging him and the conversation is substantial." This is a clip from the discussion on lowering crime rates. So this is a high praise indeed. It's the highest imaginable praise. Apparently what Buttigieg says here about lowering crime rates is so tremendous that it would win the support of a majority of voters in every state in the country. This man's talents have apparently been wasted on the transportation department for the past 4 years. He could have been working on eliminating crime. He couldn't make the trains run on time or even stay on the tracks, but he can solve the problem of crime. And here's how he plans to do it. Watch.
This might sound a little weird, but the water infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So there's actually very direct research that shows that if you have more kids exposed to lead, you run the clock out 15 years, you'll see higher crime rates because the developmental issues that they experience through lead poisoning lead them to be more likely to be justice involved. Yeah. There's like a hugely strong correlation, right? Yeah. So replacing all the lead pipes is not sexy. I think is actually one of the best things we can do that will lead to a safer society and less crime. Mm-hmm. Granted, that's not something you're seeing in the data, from 1 year to the next year. Mm-hmm. But I do think, by the time my kids are entering the workforce, that will have had a big impact. Mm-hmm. So these are things piece by piece that you think about when you come into office and get up every day trying to make other people better off. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think she does. That's what I know she does because I know her. And that's not what I believe he does. And that's why I think it's really important not just to not vote for him, but to vote for her. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the end of this claim. Please return to your seat.
Okay, so Buttigieg says that the way to reduce violent crime is to get rid of lead pipes, which, by the way, have been banned for use in residential plumbing since the year I was born. Is there possibly some theoretical indirect link between lead poisoning and a greater propensity to commit violent crimes? Maybe. Is this a major factor to consider when explaining crime rates or figuring out how to reduce them? Almost certainly not. In fact, there was an analysis, as I discovered when I looked this up, there was an analysis of over 20 studies published a couple of years ago on this topic that found exactly this. According to the analysis, there may be some sort of correlation between getting rid of lead pipes and reducing crime rates, but it is likely not a significant factor. Especially now, considering that lead pipes haven't been used in homes since 1986. Yet, in spite of the fact that the link is not significant and also not relevant in the modern age, still it's the only tangible thing Buttigieg mentions in the clip to explain violent crime. Are you feeling overwhelmed about the upcoming holidays with inflation at record highs and everything more expensive than ever? It's especially hard when your credit cards are already pushed to the max, but there is a solution. Now's the time to get your finances under control before the holiday season hits. And if you're a homeowner, American Financing can help. They can help you access the equity in your home for instant savings. Right now, they're saving homeowners just like you an average of $800 a month. Think about what your family could do with that extra money. And if you start today, you may even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you additional funds for the holidays. It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you could save. The holidays will be here before you know it. So why wait? Call American Financing today, 866-569-4711. That's 866-569-4711. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Walsh, NMLS 182334, MLS Consumer Access. Do it now before the next economic crisis hits. NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Now, this was part of a slightly longer conversation about violent crime and how to reduce it. Before this detour into lead pipes, he mentions gun control and then also legalizing marijuana. So those are the 3 things. When explaining how do we get rid of violent crime, reduce it, he says, well, we got to get rid of lead pipes, gun control, and legalize marijuana. Those are the 3 things he says. Somehow he completely misses by far the 2 biggest and most obvious factors. He makes it to lead pipes before saying a single thing about either of the 2 major overriding factors. So he never says that we can decrease violent crime by arresting violent criminals, putting them in prison, and keeping them there. And he never says that the number of violent criminals can be drastically reduced if fathers get married to the women who birth their children and then stay married to them. Those 2 simple steps could rescue every community in the country from the grip of the violent crime epidemic. Now, they're not going to eliminate all crime. Nothing can eliminate all crime, save the return of Christ and the end of days, but it could make every single neighborhood in the country safe and livable. Okay, it's like it's close to a utopian vision as you can get. You know, it's just fathers have kids stay home, and also if people commit crimes, put them in jail and keep them there. Do those 2 simple things in every community in the country, every community becomes at least livable. Nothing else comes close to that. And yet Buttigieg, one of the great minds on the left, or so we're told, doesn't think to mention either of those things. He has more to say about lead pipes causing crime than he does about fatherless homes causing crimes. Well, here's a question, Pete. What if a child grows up in a home with no lead pipes, as like the majority of children do now, and in a city that already has strict gun laws and already has legalized marijuana? And that describes the vast majority of kids right now. So what if he, like thousands of other kids in that exact situation, still goes on to become a violent criminal? How do you explain that? Could it be the total lack of male authority and moral formation in the home? Could it be the refusal to strongly disincentivize crime by harshly punishing it? Could that be it? Now, despite what delusional leftists on Twitter might think, an answer to violent crime that studiously avoids the major factors that actually lead to violent crime will not resonate with most voters. Although, actually, most voters won't even hear the whole answer because they will have already instinctively and rightfully tuned out the moment they hear Buttigieg drop the term justice involved, as you just heard him say. In fact, we could ignore everything else he said and just focus on that alone. That is, in essence, the reason why Democrats just got demolished at the polls. Not this specific answer from Buttigieg or anything that Buttigieg himself has said or done, given that he's irrelevant and most voters don't know who he is. Rather, it's the fact that Democrats, and only Democrats, use terms like justice involved instead of saying criminals, which is what that euphemism means. This is why most Americans are done with the Democrat Party. It's because they're done with leaders who speak a language that no human being actually speaks. They're done with people who refuse to address these issues plainly in English while offering solutions that are sensible and grounded in reality. No person in their daily life, outside of democratic politics or left-wing universities, would ever use the term justice involved to talk about a criminal, just like they would never use the term Latinx or microaggression or cisgender and so on. And this is, at bottom, the problem for the Democrats. They live in a different universe. And they speak like it too. And voters have very minimal requirements of their leaders at this point. The standards are really low. But one of them is that their leaders should live in the same galaxy at least, preferably the same planet. Same country would be best of all. Most Democrat politicians cannot clear that bar. Pete Buttigieg certainly can't. And that is why he is today canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.